Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. This is your host, Jorge Martin. Familia, we are past the Super Bowl. We are officially on to the 2023 season, which you know what that means. NFL drafts coming, free agencies coming. Not necessarily in that order. A lot of stuff. We're going to see some quarterback carousel stuff, but tonight we are just settling in. Now, we're live, kind of. We're on YouTube. I'm in the chat, but this is actually a pre-recorded just to make sure the schedule's worked out. I want to get this out so that we can get it so that we can release it after the Super Bowl, and I wanted to have it in the holster ready to go for you. So but no, we're going to be talking about some NFL draft, and but also make sure you're giving us a like and subscribe on YouTube, por favor. That would be a huge help to us. Help us keep growing, help us keep being keep getting our name out there, and it'll be great. So I want to also make sure you're going to fantasypoints.com, and I mean, just make sure there's so much stuff, so much good stuff coming your way. You get your 2023 subscription. You get a chunk off right now. We're going to be working out the promo codes, but we'll get to that later. But tonight, I want to introduce someone, our invitado de lujo. And he's going to understand a little more Spanish because he's in California, just like me. So, it's, when a couple weeks ago when we did the show with Jeff Bell, he raised the bar, but you're going to see a little bit of a connection here because, and this is very much my plan. I've been a fan of the artist formerly known as the Devi Royale. And recently not so recently, but they got called up to become the Football Guys college football show. So seriously, the way they attack the college game and the draft and what's coming up is so special. And make sure you're checking out their NFL draft guide. It's free. You could sign up, get their stuff. It's phenomenal. I got the copy, and it's already great. I'm learning from these guys. So they're grinding, and they're going to keep making it better. And Familia, you also know I love me some girl dads. So we were actually chopping it up a little bit beforehand. I'm giving them a little bit preview of what's coming. So, but definitely good times ahead. So I'm going to welcome in, amigo, Kevin Coleman. Kevin, bienvenidos. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, man, of course. I'm excited to be on and talk a little bit of football, and I'm glad I get to go after Jeff, so everybody knows how much better I am than him at this. And so that's a good thing. I like that you invited me on second. No, I appreciate it. Big fan of you, I know, and your work and everything that we do here and you do here. And I'm glad I can talk about these guys because this is what I'm here. This is what I do. These are the prospects I've been watching for years, and now it's coming to fruition. And every year I get to see how my work measures up to other people.
And you know what? And this class is important. It's an important class. I think so much has been made about how last year's class kind of underwhelmed a little bit. I think there's a lot of incompletes. But one of the things that also I started to hear around the new year, right before the national championship games happened, some people were calling this an underwhelming class. I don't know if maybe it was because Caleb Williams was so good, and some of the others who were from his class have people salivating for 2024. But should we pump the brakes on this class, or can Williams and the King kind of hold off? But these guys, this 2023 class, is it one that's still going to be going to give us some guys to talk about for fantasy?
Yeah, it's like the reciprocal cycle. Like we see this all the time in fantasy, like, oh, this class is not good anymore. And then you go back and you look and you're like, wait, no, it's still really good. Like, so I saw someone put out it was funny, you put this in the show sheet, but I think it's important. Like I saw someone today, I think it was today, they put out like a redraft the 2022 class. And so they redrafted it. And I was looking at like just overall, like, okay, you're gonna redraft the 22 class. But even with the 22 class, like I only would look like, to me, like when you're looking at the class as a whole, I think there's a really big tier break after the 105. So you're looking at like Wilson, Hall, Walker, London, and Olave. And then after that, there's a lot of question marks after the class there. So really, and then really to me, at face value, the only two guys that I actually really want right now are probably Garrett Wilson and Olave, because I think Hall's getting overrated. because of the injury. I think
Yeah.
dynasty wise, Walker, I think he's fine, but I think he's some people's running back too, and I think that's just a statement of the running back class and like the dynasty class where it's at. And then Drake London, I think there's question marks about the quarterback play. So like really of this class, you're still looking at 5 guys that you're pretty comfortable with. After that, a huge tier break. Whereas the 23 class, I mean, you're looking at like, I mean, the first tier is probably to 5. The second tier is the 109. Like when you're looking at the overall, like I'd probably take at least 10 players of the 23 class pretty close to where I'm looking at like Wilson and Olave in that area. So like in depth wise, running back position, tight end positions way deeper than it was. Quarterback position, which we're going to talk about tonight, way better, like entirely better. I did not draft one quarterback from the 22 class last year on any of my dynasty teams because I just didn't. They weren't good, and I didn't take them. And so that's the way I look at it.
And we'll take a couple minutes at the end because there's a couple guys, especially my Malik Willis shares, is going to want to know if there's any hope for them. And you're so right. I mean, this does feel like a deeper class. Obviously, the running backs are preview. Another member of this trio is going to be helping me out with the running backs. So well, stay tuned for that one. But I think there's so much talk about the running backs, but I think this quarterback class is it going to make up for some of the incompletes that we got from last one? I think there is that feeling, don't you think?
Yeah, no, for sure. And they have to, because when you look at the landscape overall, it's really bad out there right now at the quarterback position. Like, and just for perspective, everybody that's listening, like I did a mock draft, but every class was eligible. Caleb Williams went quarterback 12 overall, and Caleb Williams is not eligible to come out until next year in Dynasty. So when you're looking at value wise, like that's where the values are for the dynasty values for quarterbacks. But yeah, I think this class, I think there's two very good ones that we'll dive into. I think there's 2 very big question marks. But even then, last year, everybody had a question mark. Everybody was there because like the way I look at it in this class, if this was the same class of 23, basically Kenny Pickett is Will Levis, but they didn't have anybody else to add to that, and so you're basically stuck with, hey, I'll take Will Levis. That's kind of what this class would have been if Bryce and CJ aren't there, but they definitely bring it up a little bit. So yeah, I think it's gonna play a little bit of a role there.
And there's so much intrigue at the number 1 pick because what are the Bears going to do? Are they going to keep this pick and stick and pick and get a defensive player, or are they going to trade it? I mean, yeah. What would you think would be a good haul back for them?
They're gonna have to, yeah. They're gonna. I feel like they almost have to trade back in terms of just because they have so many holes that they got to really fill. And like I see a lot of people like trading back to like 9 with Carolina, and if they can get 2 first rounds and a 9th, like so if I saw a recent trade where it was like the 23 9th, and a 2nd round and a 3rd round and a 4th round. So you're trying to get like all 4 rounds in this class and then 2 first. Then you're trying to get a 24 and 25th. I think Bears Wire puts it out. If you could get that for 9, and then they still had him getting Jalen Carter, which I don't know if Jalen Carter would still be there because I feel like Jalen Carter's got to go top 5 if he's going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But if that would be like the ultimate haul. Like, hey, I can move back, get all that draft capital, and still get Jalen Carter, who I would take at 101. I'll do that all day. And so it feels like they're going to move back. They got to stay in that 10 mark. They can move back a couple times too. Like what if like they trade with Houston, they sit in at 2, Houston moves up, they get a little bit of draft capital. Then, hey, who wants another quarterback? Come get them. Then they do it again. Like I think that's the move because of all the holes they need to fill there. I don't see them standing pat. It would shock me to see them stand pat, especially after they said they're going to stick with Fields. Like I just have a hard time seeing them stand pat there.
Yeah, especially after giving up. I think they gave up too much for Chase Claypool. Yeah, giving up what essentially is the number 32 pick in the draft. That one just
that was a head scratcher. I don't know why they did that one.
I was a fan of Claypool's after his rookie year, but he's just been too inconsistent since. And I look at him, and they still need a guy to put ahead of him. He's not a wide receiver 1. So
no.
You gotta put someone on top. I think it's kind of fun. I mean, we know several Bears fans through various chat, within the fantasy.
They're all over the place. They're all over the place. These guys
just all over the place. So I'd love this. I'd love to see them have good things. They've just been torched by the Packers for 30 plus years. So yeah, I'm not saying it's their turn, but hey, they could have some nice things too. Though they did get the Cubs to win the World Series 7 years ago, so maybe they're good for a while. So you know what? Let's get into those prospects, and
All right.
at Familia, if you haven't already, you want to get a good preview, go to Kevin's article. It was from early December, but it's still I reread it, and it's still very strong. So much good analysis in there on several of the quarterbacks that we're talking about today. So we're going to spend a little more time on the guys on the front half of this because there's a lot more to discuss, and we're going to start off with Bryce Young, the Heisman Trophy winner for 2021. Just a phenomenal athlete. You know what? I was trying to find a comp for him, and a little bit. You know what? It reminded me of kind of Deshaun Watson coming out of Clemson. Just that. I think you mentioned there's a lot of intangibles with them. Dan Orlovsky compared him to Steph Curry, which I think is maybe a little bit too much. But what is your kind of like? What have you loved? What's given you a little bit of trepidation about him?
Yeah, so in the football guide, we break this down and we try to do like strengths, weaknesses, and then we do give a comp. Comps are not my forte. Like I struggle with comps sometimes, but I think I think Orlovsky, like when he's talking about that stuff, and I laugh when I saw that. Like I think he just means like his ability to move in the pocket and his ability to kind of be a playmaker and light on his feet. And he's a small stature. So like obviously one of the big weaknesses is his size. So I think, if he gets over 200, which hey, these guys that go into the Senior Bowl, they're eating their Wheaties and stuff because they hit all their weights. Like there was no like bad weights. Hayner hit his weight, like he was up there, and I'm like, whoa, where the hell did this come from? So if Bryce does that, so if we see him at the combine, he gets over 200. I think he could go one overall, like realistically. Now if he's under 200, I think that's where you're going to see him maybe dip a little bit. But like I think a fair comp for Bryce is Russell Wilson. I think that his ability to kind of move out of the pocket, he's not as big like stature wise, but I do think that his kind of Russell is best when he gets out of the pocket. Like that's what I think really struggled with this year. And so when you saw him even at Wisconsin, so like we try to do comps based on like their college tape. And at Wisconsin, where Russell Wilson was at, and NC State before that, like that's what he did. And Bryce does that very well. So out of structure playmaking is something I highlight really well with Bryce. Awareness, he's really, really good with the football. Like he only had 12 interceptions total at Alabama. Even though he threw the ball over 500 times his junior or sophomore year. So you're seeing that. I think that was really well. Accuracy, he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in this class. He's got good arm strength. He's got those things. I think the thing that hinders him the most is that his size leads to timing issues. Because sometimes I don't know if he can see where he's throwing the ball. There's a lot of times where he throws it to where his guy should be, but I think sometimes that hurts him because they're not there. And that's where we saw a couple of those interceptions that he had. A lot of missed throws came from that. So I think it's basically like, I don't know how realistically he can see over the line. Like they list him at 6 foot, but I don't think he's 6 foot. Like it would not shock me to see Bryce at 5'10", to be honest. So I think that's the question mark. And then he doesn't have the upside rushing. So from a fantasy perspective, he's not going to have that. Now, he can get out of the pocket and he can make guys miss. And he showed a little bit this year more. He had 4 rushing touchdowns, like 185 yards rushing. But that's the kicker, right? So we're talking about fantasy. We're not talking about NFL like area. And he's going to be limited there. So there's a lot to like about Bryce. Like he's my quarterback one, kind of like I have this thing with my co-host where they are CJ Stroud. Like they've been CJ Stroud QB1 for like 2 years. And I've just been Bryce for 2 years. And I don't want to give it up to them yet, but it wouldn't shock me to see Bryce go as quarterback 2 of this class, just because I know CJ's profile fits pretty well. But overall, Bryce is a solid solid floor, like a solid floor guy where if he lands into, and I had this question the other day, we were at our pod, Jeff asked me, he said, is there any place where Bryce, if he got landed with landing spot wise, would he not be quarterback 1 for you? And I said, no, because I think he has the safest floor of any of these guys. So even if he goes to Carolina, goes to the Texans, goes to the Seahawks, goes to the Colts, like I don't see any spot where I'm like, oh, that sucks for him, because I think he can make anything work because he's so versatile.
And I don't see him going anywhere to any team that's going to be drafting at the top in the top 2 picks. Let's say that.
Yeah.
I don't see him going to a team where he's going to sit. So we're going to find out, and that's why he's going to be worthy of an early pick. That we didn't have that from last year's draft class. Nobody started right off the bat. So that to me with Bryce Young, I mean, he's such a playmaker when things are really working. It's great. I mean, obviously he's going to need pass catchers. The I know that the NFL as a the NFL draft community, the organizations are gonna worry about, Kyler Murray. He's dealt with injuries. Obviously, he's dealing with a knee injury right now that isn't
Yeah.
necessarily because of his size. Tua took some major hits. Some people are going to question whether the concussions are as a result of his size. So I mean, I'm with you. Jeff Christian, sorry, I'm with you. I'm picking Bryce's. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna cause a tie or anything like that. But I'll let you guys still hammer it out between the three of you. But no, I just think there's some playmaking ability in Bryce Young, and I still remember the game where he took apart that Georgia defense. That had what, six guys who are starting in the NFL now, before all his receivers got hurt in before the national championship game. So
Yep.
I really like Bryce Young. Now I want to go to the next one because you being a Michigan fan, you've seen the best of times and worst of times for CJ Stroud, and in two games. I was I was really questioning. I had major questions after the Michigan game because I felt like Michigan made him look uh, average. I didn't. I did. But then the Georgia game came, and it was just. He blew me. I actually rewatched the game the other day to just kind of feel better because it was New Year's Eve and everything like that. I saw great timing, just not the huge arm, but Joe Burrow doesn't have a huge arm, and he hits the spots. I'm not comparing Familia. I'm not comparing CJ Stroud to Joe Burrow. Don't cancel me. But I saw some really good, some much better traits, and doing it against an elite defense. How much did you kind of? I mean, both elite defenses. Michigan's going to have a lot of guys playing in the NFL too. What did CJ Stroud show you in improving from that one, that maybe from the Michigan game to the Georgia maybe is going to help him when it comes draft time?
So yeah, you hit it on the head in terms of like the comp is Joe Burrow. Like that is going to be the comp. Now, whether it's good Joe Burrow or bad Joe Burrow, that's really the question. Like I think with CJ, because like that was our comp as well. I've watched him play a while. Part of me and in reality is, and I think that we've talked about this enough too on our show, is Ryan Day, I think, held him back a bit. Like Ryan Day doesn't like his quarterbacks to run. So Ryan Day, you'll watch him. He'll look to the sidelines, and like Day will say no. Like there's some body language going on with that. And his quarterbacks historically, look at Justin Fields. Look what Fields does in the NFL. Why wouldn't he been able to do that in college? Like people were actually talking about Fields not being a rushing upside in college, like coming out, and now he probably would have broke the rushing record had he stayed healthy. And for quarterbacks, and you're just laughing at that. And that, I think that's CJ too. Like CJ has the ability. I think we've seen him do it a few times, but his head coach doesn't like that. So I think when people are knocking him against that, like I see people knocking him all the time, I laugh because like our precedents have seen Day be that guy, right? Like I don't know if you remember, but like you were saying Sam Howell was a dual threat guy coming out because he had all these rushing yards from North Carolina, but he wasn't a dual threat. He was just asked to do a lot of that stuff by his coaching staff, and that was not going to translate because he wasn't the level of athlete these guys are. CJ is an athlete, like he's athletic, he can do those type of things. So I think that's one area to look at too with him is like I do think that he could bring that dual level ability. We just haven't seen it yet. He's not going to be a Justin Fields type athlete, but he can definitely kind of do those things. So I think that's the area that I kind of highlight. Like he's unwilling to do it, but is it because of Day? But other than that, like I think he's a really high level processor. I think he sees the field very well, and I think he's almost. It's crazy to say this, but I think he's too too good at it, because what happens is you saw him at
Mhm.
times pull the ball down, not make tough throws. And some of it was like, well, I'm not going to make a mistake here. I don't want to, because my coach tells me, hey, I can't make that read. And he took a lot of sacks on unnecessary plays. So like the Michigan game and certain games like that, he kind of let the game just come to him, and he didn't take a lot of things over. So that could also be a negative, where it's like he wants everything to be too perfect. But that's NFL coaching. They'll get that out of him. Like overall, he's a high level processor. He good ball placement to all levels of the field. He makes some throws. Like, so I have his all 22. And sometimes you just watch his all 22 and you're just like, damn, that's an NFL throw right there. Cause he legit has like the ability to make every throw on the field. Like there's nothing out there. And people don't realize this. He's a late bloomer. Like in high school, his junior year is he really took off. He didn't really have any offers until his junior year. Then his senior year, he had a great senior year. Then Ohio State offered him, and then he didn't play his freshman year. And then he played his sophomore and junior year for Ohio State. Like, so he's still youngish, like in terms of the position. Like we might not see his ceiling yet. So like there's little things about Stroud that you have to like.
You know what? You mentioned the running, and you're right. I mean, he didn't get a lot of opportunity. I mean, he could run maybe as much as like a Mahomes or a Burrow or a Justin Herbert. Not going to run for 700-800 plus yards, but maybe he's like 300 yards, 400 yards, and helps you out that way. I think, and I and it's going to be so much the landing spot. I mean, we know that the quarterbacks that are the quarterback needy teams that are at the top of the draft. You mentioned Houston, you mentioned Carolina, Indianapolis. I mean, those are three of the teams. The Raiders are up there too. I think, who's going to go up and get. Would you be surprised if him and the Stroud and Bryce Young went 1-2, not necessarily in that order?
No, I would not. I think they will. I think if you're the Colts, you do whatever you can to get CJ. Like I think that he would fit perfectly on that roster with Taylor, and again, I don't know how much I would like CJ to be there, just because that freaking coaching search has been a nightmare and everything there. But I think if you're the Colts, you fit him in there with Pittman. You have those kind of weapons. Pierce, whatever is there. I don't know if they're going to bring Paris back. They have a good tight end sets. What that offense is going to look like, we still don't know as we record this pod in February. So I don't know who they're going to hire. But when you're looking at those things, like I think he fits very well there for the Colts. Like I think the Texans do too. Like I could see both those teams that really want him. The Texans dropped the bag when they won that last game, because I think that they would be sitting there with CJ being there. But I think that's why. Now, if they move up to take Levis, I think that's a mistake. But the Colts would do very well with CJ. And in another team like Seahawks, the Seahawks would kill it with Stroud. Like that's why, like, I know Geno just won comeback player of the year and all that stuff. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Geno Smith. You're not doing it. And you're sitting in the top 5. And if CJ is there on the board and you pass on him, that could be a career killer for all of that front office and the team, because I think that CJ gives you the best chance to win on that roster. And I think that's what you're looking for. Like those are the areas. Like if I was a team like the Seahawks and CJ sitting there, I'm taking him. But if he's at 1-2, he's not going to be there for the Seahawks unless they move up, which I don't think they will. But no, I think both those guys should go 1-2 off the board, especially with the quarterback position the way it is in the NFL.
You know what? You brought me a flashback to the 2021. I think it was the 2021 draft where Carolina passed on both Fields and Mac Jones.
Yep.
And so it's just, and no, wait a second, Hurts wasn't in that draft. He was the year before.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, you think about those guys that they passed up on, and I don't know if you're Seattle where you're building it. You've already got the receivers is set. You've got a good running back, an improving offensive line, a good secondary. Yeah, oof. I know you want a pass rusher, but man, yeah, if you could get a game changer quarterback on that team, especially with with the NFC West vulnerable right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to Kentucky, Bluegrass State.
All right.
Will Levis. This is a guy who's polarizing. I think some people are looking at him and wish casting him into Josh Allen. He's not 6'5", he's 6'3", 232, according to the he hasn't gone in, he hasn't been weighed on the combine or anything like that, measured officially. You mentioned his tools, and that tell me, big arm, everything. What what do you like? I mean, there's so much on either side of the balance beam.
So, okay, so if I'm gonna be positive for Levis, so if I'm gonna be
Yes.
positive here, I think arm strength is key. Like arm strength is
Hmm.
has it. He has a cannon, like it's a howitzer. Like he can get it to different places of the field. And he'll challenge for having the best arm in the class easily, no problem there. I think his mechanics look really good when he has a clean pocket, like when he sets up. And I think that's some of the mistakes he made this year. Like he did not have a very good year, but his offensive line was bad. And yeah, to everybody's credit out there that points to that, he didn't have a good offensive line. And so, yeah, he needs that perfect offensive line to be able to kind of give him enough time to get his mechanics together, set up, and get his hips across, do all those things that he needs to do as a quarterback. He does that when he has a good line. Like, and that is again they're going to be like what you watch for in the draft. If he gets drafted by a team that has a pretty solid line, pro style offense, and can set him up perfectly, has good weapons, Levis will be okay. Like I don't think that he's going to be like a fall on his face guy, but he has to have a lot of things go right for him. I think that's the thing there. And then the coaches, for the most part, and these are the things that we can't these are the things you can't measure because we're not there. They do say his leadership's really good. Like they say that he has a very good intangibles in the locker room, and those are the type of things you want to see. Because obviously, it could be like Zach Wilson, right? His biggest, I think, his downfall. I don't think it's the physical tools that is downfall. I think it's the mental tools for him, and I think that's the opposite of Levis. Like he's got an arm and he's got some of the intangible stuff. So from a strengths perspective, I think that's where he's highlighted.
And oh, so people went to his birthday party, right?
Yeah, people went to his birthday party. He's good there. Like maybe not the Penn State people, but the Kentucky people definitely.
And you know what? There was also talk of him suffering from the wide receivers graduating on him and not and having a little bit of a downgrade on the skill position. I think about a team like Carolina with Frank Reich, who has that quarterback whisperer, and you've got DJ Moore already in the house. That could, I think that could be an interesting landing spot for him. And from a fantasy perspective, you know, on a super dynasty side, how far down are you dropping him in the first round?
So the way I look at him, like, because I think that his biggest weaknesses come from anticipation and like reading defensive schemes, and that scares me for a quarterback. So like I think I won't draft Levis unless I'm sitting there. So at the 111 or 112, and if he goes in the first round, he's going to go in the first round. So like if he goes in the first round and gets drafted, he's going to go in the first round of our super flex rookie drafts, our mock drafts, or just in general. So if you're at the 111 or 112. I think Levis is going to be there, but this is what I would say is like if you're there at the 111, 112, you probably need a quarterback because you probably lost Brady, or you might have lost Rodgers, or you might have lost one of these guys. Tua maybe was your QB2, and you're a little worried about what Tua is going to be moving forward. That 111, 112 now becomes a perfect. I'm going to trade this dude for like Russell Wilson. Like, okay, I'm going to go shoot the moon. I'm going to go compete. And if someone wants to move up, or someone has Russell Wilson on like a contend or like a rebuilding middling team, and they want to take a shot with Levis, that's a perfect fit for both squads. So like that's where I think he goes, the 110 to 112 mark, unless someone really falls in love with him or needs a quarterback and they draft for need rather than talent. But then that's where I would use that dynasty value and to kind of flip it on people and say, okay, well, I need a quarterback, but I need a quarterback like maybe Kirk Cousins or one of these guys that like maybe is dying on a roster out there that you can grab and just try to go win it again, because that's the name of the game, is go win it. So that's where I would have him at.
You're actually speaking exactly about one of my teams that is loaded everywhere. I've still got a good second quarter. My third quarterback was Jared Goff, so I can elevate him to the number 2 spot. But I wouldn't mind. Well, my other quarterback is Matthew Stafford, so I got to get someone else in there just in case, just to protect me. But
and that's where it's at. Like you just have to be smart about this now. Like you shouldn't bank on Levis being a solid QB2 for you. Like that would be a mistake, in my opinion.
no, not right now. I mean, I think you could say all these guys are going to struggle as rookies. The ones that are going to start, there may be some highlight reel games, but I don't think anybody's going to come in and be Justin Herbert right off the bat.
No.
Well, one guy that's also drawing a lot of attention because of his tools is Anthony Richardson, and one person who was really singing his praises was Ray GQ. He's really high on him. His arm. Of all the guys that I looked at, and I want your expert opinion because you've been watching them a lot more. You've seen a lot more throws. His is the only for me in this class. His is the only one that's in the same league with Levis. Please feel free to say no, but he has that dual threat ability.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about the boom bust possibilities with him getting in the right opportunity. What could happen with this guy?
I mean, he realistically, and I love Ray, and like I've been a big Anthony guy for 2 years. Like I liked Anthony because of his ceiling and his upside, his potential. Um, Realistically, if Anthony was to hit his ceiling, he's the best quarterback in this class from a fantasy perspective. Like if you're looking at just realistically, like he's 6'4", 232, has a howitzer of arm too. Arm strength is right there with Levis and maybe better, right? He has that athleticism. He's probably the most athletic kid in this class for sure. And then you have his mobility. Like he is a guy that's going to be that dual threat kid. Then when you're looking at it, so like his absolute ceiling is QB1. Like in fantasy, if he gets first round draft capital and if he gets first round draft capital, and this is how crazy it is, and people don't believe me, but I've been doing these mocks forever since he's in here. We did a landing spot mock where he got first round draft capital. He went 103 overall in our mock for Superflex. The guy's like, I love him. If he gets first round draft capital, I'll take him at 103. So he went above Bryce. And so that's how high he's going to, if he gets first round draft capital, he's going to be a top 5 pick in super flex drafts. No question about it. Like, I don't see any shot where he's not, unless it's like late first, but if it's like top 15, he's definitely going in there. And that's just because they're banking on that. Now there's some question mark, like landing spots, for me, what I put in for him in our rookie guide, I said he needs to get drafted by a team with a strong coaching staff that's developed quarterbacks, and he needs a team willing to build around him and incorporates a heavy rushing attack with him. Like Lamar, for example, what the Ravens were able to do with Lamar and have that kind of ability to do that. Like, and they bought in. Like, it's not just drafting a guy and saying, like Bucky Brooks talked about on the Move to Six podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to that. I love that podcast. Daniel Jeremiah. And he always says, great teams draft players with a plan. And that's what I want to see. Like, I want a team that says, that's our guy. We're going to build around this kid, because then he can, then you're like, oh, okay, they're going to use him. They're going to be able to use him around and do those things. Like that's where I have him. Like, but I mean, the downside with him is like he has real accuracy issues. Like he has real accuracy problems. And I think that's like going to be the kicker is like, and don't use Willis. Like Willis, to me, Malik is not in the same stratosphere as Richardson as a prospect was ever. So I think those are just lazy comps, people being dumb on Twitter. It's like Anthony Richardson's not in that category. Like I think he is a elite talent, but I think that there's real risk. Like he's the riskiest dude in this entire class.
I think with him, I mean, you look at the teams that need quarterbacks. I know everybody's excited about the Houston Texans, but we don't know what kind of offensive, coaching infrastructure he's going to have around him. And so I think there's question marks there. I think we feel a little better about Frank Reich with Indianapolis. I think we'd feel a little bit better about, Josh McDaniels at the Raiders, because we know their quarterback situation is what it is. You mentioned the Seahawks. That's another, with, their offense, what they did with Geno Smith was impressive. So, man, that's,
I like the Raiders though. Like I'm still a McDaniels guy till I die. I think I'm just gonna be that guy that goes down. Like I think he could develop him. He made Mac look like a very solid quarterback too in fantasy. Mac Jones. And Mac Jones struggled. And I'm not going to blame Mac for what that offense was this year, but he's made them look relevant. Like, you can't tell me he can't make Anthony Richardson look relevant. Like, especially they bring Jacobs back and they say, hey, we're just going to run the ball. We have these weapons. You just got to make the right read and play. Hey, we'll kind of ease you into it. Hey, we have this kind of veteran there. Like, I really like the Raiders as the fit. Like, I would love to see him go to the Raiders, because I think I think that fan base would rally behind him. I think Anthony could be that guy that's like there. Like, I think that would be a fun fit. I don't know if they're going to do it, but that would be my favorite fit.
And it's one, and I think when you let go Derek Carr, and I don't usually get into speculation. I like to react to what happened, but we kind of went there, so let's kind of riff on this. You let go of Derek Carr, and I've heard people talk about Jimmy Garoppolo there, and it's like I don't see that. You're taking a home run swing, and I think Anthony Richardson is a home run swing for the Raiders that you go for. And if it doesn't work out, if he becomes Jamarcus Russell or Blake Bortles or something like that, all right, you go for it again. But I don't know, this guy with good coaching, you got to believe in yourself. So,
Yeah.
he's the guy that I'm really excited, and I've got a 105 pick in one of my leagues, and I don't know if there will be a receiver there that I'm sure I'm intrigued by. There may even be a running back that I'm intrigued by, but I think Richardson will be there too, and that'll give me a lot of thoughts. That'll give me a lot of
Yeah.
thoughts.
No,
So,
I
go
love it.
ahead.
I'm just rooting for him because he's one of my favorite kids in this entire class. Like I just want him to prove people wrong.
Yes. And we need more quarterbacks in the NFL.
We do. We do. 100%.
It's funny. I think it was on a Ross Tucker podcast. I don't think it was the Move the Sticks one, but I think it was before the 2022 class. No, it was before the 2021 class. There was talk that, oh, maybe we finally have enough quarterbacks, and no, we don't. We
You
don't.
never have
So
enough quarterbacks.
no,
Never.
no. Never have enough quarterbacks. You never have enough pitching. So in
Yep.
baseball, so never, never, never. Something about the arms. So okay. So we've talked about the four guys that I think are pretty consensus are going to go in the first round. So we're going to go through this next batch, kind of a little more quick hitting on this one.
Mm-hmm.
This next one though is interesting to me. Hendon Hooker. I mean, I think he built a lot of excitement. The way he played, especially the way he played against Alabama, the ACL injury, his 25 years old. That was one of the things we talked about before. Injury. He's 2 months older than Justin Herbert. Is there hope because of his advanced age and the ACL injury? We know he's not going to be picked in the first round, so he's not going to get the draft capital for people to be patient with him.
What's crazy is I think he might have been picked in the first round had he not gotten injured. Like I think a team would have definitely took a shot on him because I think
Mm-hmm.
there's needy teams out there. I don't know. He's just, I struggle with him. Like when I wrote him up, I think he has really good accuracy from the pocket. I think he has a good maturity, can do that decision making. But damn it, man, he's old. Like he's a very old prospect. And then and I know that people will talk about like, well, I don't really care about how old they are at quarterback, but 25 being older there, coming off an injury where you're probably going to be like 26, right? Like you're probably going to have to wait on Hooker. I don't know if he's going to come back mid-year, but even then, is that the smart thing to do, is roll a kid out that's just coming off an ACL in the middle of the season, probably on a team that's not doing very well, and just say, hey, go try it? Like, I don't know where that would look in terms of that. So I think that I'm probably out on him in terms of drafting him, unless it's like third round and I'm gonna take a shot on it. Okay, like that's fine. As far as landing spots go, man, I don't. You know, with a team that I actually kind of mentioned, I mean, the Saints could always be out there because I don't know what the hell the Saints are gonna do. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do, because if they have a stopgap again and then they take Hooker and then they try to fill in Hooker next year in a vertical passing offense, I think that's where he would fit pretty well. And I also put down the Vikings. So they have Kirk Cousins, but next year, what if they just take a shot on Hooker? They tried this before with Kellen Mond, but Kellen Mond's bad. I don't know what they were thinking there, but they did do it with Hooker, and they say, hey, listen, we're just going to have you sit for a year. We have Kirk. It's fine. We can get out of Kirk's contract after next year. You developed, and we'll just put you in. I think that could be an interesting spot for him.
I agree. I agree. All right, so we're going to go to the other guy in the national championship game, Max Duggan. TCU, 6'1", 204 pounds. How much did he hurt himself with that poor performance against Georgia?
I would be shocked if he got drafted, to be honest with you. Like, I think he really hurt himself. And the reason why I say this is, like, he might get 6th, 7th round draft capital. His accuracy is so bad. Like I don't think he has an NFL arm. Like I don't think there's things that he does that are like, oh my gosh, teams are going to fall in love with. Like he has really bad mechanics, errant throws that will get picked off against NFL level talent. Pressure hurts him a lot. That's not going to do well at the NFL level. His decision making overall is just not good.
All right. Well, we're going to go to your backyard on this
Yep.
next one. Fresno State, the MVP of the Senior Bowl, Jake Hayner. Uh, uh, you saw him a lot. You probably saw
Yeah.
him. You saw him more than anybody else, obviously in person. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, no, I like Jake. I think he could be a very good, solid like backup slash maybe comes in and does it. He measured it at 208 pounds at the Senior Bowl, which I have not. That's like 10 or 15 pounds heavier than what he's been listed at Fresno State his entire career. So when I saw that number, I was like, man, my boy's eating tacos out here in California because I don't know what is going on like in terms of what he's doing. But he has that. I think he has good toughness. I think he has very good accurate throws from the short to intermediate. So if he finds himself in like a West Coast offensive system or something that allows him to get quick reads and just get the ball out, he could be very good. Above average awareness. When you're looking at it, I think the one thing with him is his arm strength. He's had injuries, and is that because of his frame, like his stature in there? But I think he's a very solid backup. Like he'd be a very solid guy. There's a couple teams I had him like fits for him. The Lions maybe behind Goff, the Rams behind Stafford, or the Jets. Maybe the Jets take a shot on him. They don't draft a quarterback in those first 3 or 4 rounds. I know they're trying to look for a veteran, but let's say they don't get him. Maybe they say, okay, well, let's get Hayner in the 4th or 5th round, kind of like. So someone said he could be like a Kirk Cousins type, and I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe he's that late round guy that they can come in and can stay in the league for a little while.
And some people are saying who's the next Brock Purdy? Come on, I mean, how much do you have to splash water on people? It's like, oh, come on, how many times is Mr. Irrelevant going to take a team to the NFC Championship game? So
Yeah,
uh,
just the Brock thing is crazy. I mean, it's funny. I actually do have a mock or a comp for Brock Purdy, and it's Tommy DeVito. He played for Illinois, and it's only because like he looks like him. Like he has like kind of that like underachieved, but has physical tools and all that stuff. No, I wouldn't bet on any of these guys to be like that level of like can come in, but like for example, my Hayner comp is Trace McSorley from Penn State, and he bounced around a little bit, but he reminds me of him a little bit. Like, so I think he could be okay. I see him get a bunch of buzz right now. He looked okay in the Senior Bowl, but no one looked good at the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl is just it wasn't a very good game. Like, it just wasn't like they didn't have the talent level that they used to seeing there. So, and again, like I told you before the show, I try not to pump these guys up too much because I watch them all the time, but I do think that he could be a very solid guy, solid backup.
And good arm. And you know what? To me, showing up in the Senior Bowl when you're playing against other guys that are going to play at the next level, that says a lot. I mean, Justin Herbert was the MVP of the Senior Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
other guys. I remember last year, Dameon Pierce was for me a guy that I really, really rose up my own draft board after I saw him. So there's something to be said about playing well with that other one.
Yeah.
The next guy that we're going to talk about, he did not play. He was there in Mobile, but didn't end up playing in the game. Jaron Hall, BYU is are we just talking back up with him?
Yeah, more than likely. I thought he did not do well, like you mentioned. I think that his age too. He's an older prospect as well. He went to BYU. He did the mission thing, so you see that in terms of where he's going to be. He's going to turn 25 before the draft as well, so he's right there with Hooker in terms of like the age area. Injury history. He's had a lot of concussions, and so again with the NFL and those issues, he has some hip issues that really hurt him as a quarterback. Pocket awareness he struggled with a little bit. You saw that at the Senior Bowl with his inability to kind of make the throws that you saw there. I think he's a physical toolsy guy though. So Mitch Trubisky is our comp for him. So he's just a guy that he can probably play, but he's going to be an erratic quarterback.
Yeah, and Nakua definitely helped them a lot. I saw on some of the plays he was really good. So the next one's got a soft spot in my heart, my backyard. We're a UCLA family, so my wife's a Bruin. My daughter was born at the medical center, so Dorian Thompson-Robinson, definitely a dual threat quarterback. Thoughts on him? Can he be Tyler Huntley, which means he could be a Pro Bowler?
Oh man, Dorian. He had a really bad game at the. I think he went to the East Shrine Bowl. East West Shrine Bowl. He did not look very good. He's very seasoned, so I said experience and game reps. So overall, when you're looking at him from that perspective, like he has that game reps in there. He's got okay arm strength. He's just small. 191 is what he measured in at. So like the size is going to be a concern there. My comp for him is PJ Walker. Like, and I think just overall with what we've seen with PJ been able to do, kind of bounce around from XFL, and then he goes, then he comes in for Carolina and does it. Like he can do those type of things, but I not a lot of high hopes for Dorian. I like Dorian. I thought he was a great college quarterback, but he's one of those guys who's a great college guy that the physical tools I think are going to limit him at the next level.
Yeah, and I agree. And one of the things that you always see a guy when he's on the same field with another guy, and when they played USC, you just saw the difference between him and Caleb Williams. It was so stark a difference. And though I would like to see DTR throw 67 yards on a walk off to DJ Moore, I'd love to see him try that one. So I'm adding one after this guy, but Clayton Tune. I kind of liked his arm a little bit. What do you like about him? But again, I'm still looking at a backup with him.
Yeah, probably a backup. I like Clayton. He's been mocked a little bit to like, what system it's funny what system he'd actually look good in. And everybody's going to laugh at me because it's a cop out. But the Niners, he'd look very good in the Niners system because I think he fits kind of that West Coast concepts that don't require you to push the ball down very far. He'd also fit in like an RPO based offense or maybe just kind of like multiple schemes, like in terms of like just looks. I think he has good rushing upside. You've seen him. He had 540 yards rushing last year. Short to intermediate accuracy, awareness, decision making. He's got that. I think that his age, again, he's a redshirt senior coming out. So he's got that going on. Arm strength can sometimes wane deep balls. Like he's got okay arm strength, but I think deep balls assail on him a little bit. And that's really the question mark. But he's a guy like Case Keenum was my mock for him for my player comp. That's kind of what I would expect. That's like his ceiling to me as a Case Keenum type career arc.
Can I add one guy that I forgot to put on the show sheet?
Yeah.
The national champion himself, Stetson Bennett.
Stetson.
I know. Yes, exactly. This, as parents, we're like, come on, man. Oh, Stetson. But I mean, at what point do you look at a guy and it's like, yeah, you don't see the physical traits, but then it's like, okay, it's kind of like the Jimmy G factor. The guy still wins.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I apologize to Stetson after the year because I was very hard on him. I was very hard on him for the last couple of years. And I think before when he won the national title the first time, I said it's the worst starting quarterback to ever win a national title. And I don't think I was wrong, but I think that with Stetson, football IQ, decision making, leadership qualities will all stand out. He's small, 5'11", 190. Decision making too. I don't know if you saw he got arrested out in Fort Worth First of all, how do you get arrested? How do you go to Fort Worth, who you just beat 61-7, and get arrested in public? Like, those cops ain't letting you off. Come on, you got to have better awareness, Stetson. Like, come on, Stetson. But I think I'd be because of that, because he skipped the Senior Bowl. I know a lot of teams were upset that he skipped the Senior Bowl, and they really wanted him there because that's like the perfect kind of venue for him. I'd be hard pressed to see him get drafted. I put 7th round maybe. My comp was Taylor Heineke for him, so the Washington Commanders quarterback, kind of like that spunky guy that has irrational confidence. If we play basketball, I used to coach basketball at varsity level, and I used to play a lot, so we always used to have that irrational, confident guy on our team, the one that just he's not good, but he just makes threes sometimes, and he just gets hot, and you're just like, yep, give him the ball, get him the ball. Like that's Stetson to me, is like that irrational, confident guy that has no business being on the NFL field, but he's just going to find some ways to kind of throw some touchdowns at some point. And you're like, who the hell is this guy?
He should have been in Mobile and not in Fort Worth, and that's why I did the whole Stetson. That's as we would say in Spanish, una pendejada. Just pendejo is an idiot, so idiot moves. So yeah, just Stetson. Stay in Athens, Georgia, where you don't have to. You're not going to have to buy another beer again or a meal again for the rest of your life. So don't worry about that. All right, so I wanted to transition quick hits on the quarterback class that's going into year 2, and kind of in a little bit of order of where just kind of quick hits. What early outlook for growth in 2023? start with Kenny Pickett, the only guy who maybe has a solid starting job for 2023. Did he show enough growth?
I don't think so, but I don't think it really matters because I don't think that they're going to be in a position to be able to draft a quarterback. So unless they want to go out there and get a free agent that's going to be open or maybe go on the market, which I don't think they will, I think he's fine. Like he's going to start, but I don't know if he's for fantasy, you're like, yeah, I'm excited to have Kenny Pickett on my team. Like, I just don't see it. So, like, to me, I'm out. Like, if you can get someone to kind of give you something for Kenny to where you feel like it's a value, you probably draft him with the 108, I'm assuming, or higher, 108 to 112. So if you can get something measurable like that, I wouldn't hate it. But he's okay. Like, Kenny's fine. Kenny's just, to me, he has no ceiling. So I don't like to play fantasy with no ceiling. That's just not something I like to do.
Yeah, I don't even know if I want him as my number 2 quarterback in a super flex league.
No.
It's, I want him as that third quarterback, to maybe sub in on bye weeks. Desmond Ridder, do you buy that he's really getting a shot?
I don't. I think that if they decide, like, I think it really depends on how the board plays out in front of them. Like, if the first 7 picks, if like 4 of those quarterbacks are off the board or 3 of them, and then Richardson's sitting there, I think they could take a shot on Anthony Richardson. But I think that they might just say, hey, we'll go Ridder. And if he's really bad, we'll get Caleb Williams next year. And they could literally, or Drake May, and they just decide, hey, that's the area we want to go. I think he might get a shot depending on how the board falls. I think he may be, but see, both these teams, like we're going to talk about Sam Howell. I know I'm jumping on your thing, but like they should have started these guys at week 10. There's no reason why they shouldn't have. Because if you're going to do it anyway, you might as well just like that's why they're just poorly run franchises. I think Atlanta's not as bad, but like Washington, if you said they're going to get a shot, but you want to see what he can do, you should have done it 8 weeks ago because you had no shot. And then it's a lame duck. And then you're just sitting there like, well, this coaching staff's probably getting fired anyway. And then it's just going to reset again. It's just these freaking ownership groups make the same mistakes over and over again. And they wonder why they just never are good.
Yeah. I mean, so anything else you'd want to add on Howell?
I think he's going to start because I just think the way that the draft is, like, they're not going to draft a guy. And I don't know if they're going to be in the market for the free agent issue. So, yeah, I think he's going to start. I think and Hal's one of those guys where I think he got, I don't want to say he got screwed because the NFL knows more than us, but I really feel like he should have went higher than he did. I think I don't know what happened there. Like, he's a better prospect than Malik. He was better than those guys. Like, I think Hal probably deserved 3rd round draft capital and he didn't get it. I think that he has a shot to maybe go do it. But again, what is his ceiling? I don't know what his ceiling would be. Like, again, if you can kind of move him based on this, like if, hey, he maybe has a couple of early good games, you're like, hey, I can kind of use that to my advantage for value wise. But I think he's earned the starting role just by default because they didn't play him enough and they got to see what they have with him.
You touched on Malik. I don't know. Is there hope? Yeah, you're out.
I don't think so. He looks so overwhelmed. Unless he took a huge step, but he just looked over the speed. He just looked like he was so overwhelmed. Like, and I don't want to be a dick, and I don't want to be harsh, but like I really feel like Malik could be like the XFL guy. Like, I covered XFL. Like, I really do. Like, I kind of enjoy it. He would be a perfect kid for that because, hey, go there, be like the face, go to anybody, and just like go have some fun and do that stuff. Like, I don't see him. I just don't. I'd be shocked to see if he anything. And his dynasty values got to be low as heck. Like, I don't think you could give Malik away, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do have him on one team that's doing a productive struggle, and I'm just holding. It's just holding because I'm not going to get anything. I'm not going to cut him, so may as well just see. But yeah, when they're signing Josh Dobbs off the street to start in front of you a week later, just that says so much. That's rough. But we saw Geno Smith in what was it, year 9 or something like that? Become a Pro Bowl caliber player, become comeback player of the year. When we're talking about these guys, when we're talking about someone like Zach Wilson, who maybe is really buried so much on people's draft boards in doing startups, but you see a Geno Smith, what does that tell you about evaluating the QB position, and is there hope for guys like Zach Wilson? I mean, we're not going to talk about Malik anymore.
Yeah, I think so. Like, because the way the NFL needs a quarterback issue, they have a quarterback problem anyway. I think these guys get chances. Like Jimmy G, you've seen him get chances over and
Hmm.
over. Like you see these guys get chances, and you're looking at the landscape. I mean, the position is getting old. The position is old. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
guys that are they're aging out, and then we're gonna have soon. Tannehill, he's on his last legs. Kirk Cousins on his last legs. Like you're looking at Stafford, he might retire. He's in that last leg kind of area. Like if you just go through the quarterback landscape, you're just sitting there like, man, like it's kind of it's crazy to think about just how much like these guys are aging out. And then even and Daniel Jones, what's Daniel Jones going to be? Daniel Jones is going to get a $30 million, $40 million contract because they have to, right? So like I think Howe and Ritter and these guys that have upside, like they're going to be bouncing around. Pickett's going to be in the league for a little bit because these teams need them. They're desperate right now, and I think that's what you're going to see in this class. So just to wrap it up with the 23 class quarterbacks, like I think teams last year said, "Oh, we're going to punt on the quarterback position. We're way too smart. We don't need these guys. We're going to build around the dudes that we have." And Houston said Davis Mills is our guy, and then midway through the year, they're like, "Wow, we screwed that up because they're not our guy." And so what you're going to see in the 23 draft, I have a feeling, is people are going to overcompensate at the quarterback position, and they're going to just start overdrafting these guys. So we're going to see a lot of these guys get overdrafted now because it just flips. You know how the NFL is. It's a cycle. They say, oh, well, we messed that up. We're going to overdraft these guys. And so that's what's going to end up happening. And you're going to see overdrafts now, and you're going to have some of these other guys that are developing. Ritter, maybe Hal takes that step. So yeah, I think there's always hope for Zach Wilson. There's always hope for those guys that have that little bit of talent that maybe they can have it. But again, a lot of them turn out like, some of these quarterbacks that you're just like, dang, I wish they could have been something, right? They could have been good. And a lot of it's just the team they get drafted to. And it sucks that these guys don't get to pick their team because these teams just aren't good at developing guys.
And with him, not to harp on Zach Wilson, but I mean, you look at what happened with him. He is quarterback's coach, who is considered a quarterback whisperer, dies in a tragic biking accident right before his first training camp, and then he gets hurt. And so you just kind of wonder a little bit of what might have been with Zach. So I'm not burying the guy. He's 22 or something like that, but yeah, he'll benefit from sitting, and we'll see who they put in front of him. I hope it's someone good for New York's sake, because that media was going to eat somebody alive. One fun one before we close up shop. You're now a seasoned content creator in the Familia of fantasy content creators. Football Guys got you in there. What would you want to tell anyone that's just starting out in the fantasy space?
Oh, that's a loaded question, huh?
Yeah.
It's a tough one because it's a tough world out there right now. I think the COVID is over. So remember how everybody was getting involved in the fantasy space during COVID, and then that's over now. The biggest thing I will say, and like I get a lot of DMs about this too, and they say, "Hey, what do you do?" Like, and I don't have all the answers, but first one is like jump in and have some fun. Like, just do this
Yeah.
stuff. Like, go in and find out there. Yeah, reach out to others too. Like, if you need help or they need help, like, reach out to them and like, hey, how did you get started? Or what did you do? Like this, like, hey, like, ask me and stuff like that. And the biggest thing, I think the biggest mistake I made when I started was like, I cared about what other analysts thought of me. Like I wanted to like prove them that I deserve to be here. And in reality, just create cool shit and have fun and just have fun with it and do you like just have that niche. Like for me, it's college, and I know it's not going to get the likes and the bumps and the subs and stuff like that because it's not a lot. It's a niche thing. Even college football is a niche thing, like in terms of like prospects, but I don't care because I have fun doing it. So like, I'm like, hey, whatever. Like that's me. That's who I am. And just create content for regular people. Don't worry about there and have a person that you write for. So I don't know about you, but what I do is like my inspiration is my brother because my brother, he has two jobs. He's a police officer, and then he also owns a coffee shop. So he works basically, he's a business owner and his dangerous job. And that dude, he likes fantasy, but he always will text me like, hey, tell me who to draft. but don't freaking tell me all this other stuff. Just tell me who to draft. Like just every year he's like, just tell me the guys I need to draft, please, real quick. And I said, okay. But that's who I write for, because we sometimes get too complicated where it's like 98% of the people don't want to know any of this advanced metrics. They don't want to know any of this stuff. They just want you to tell them, like we're in a conversation like this in fun, who should I draft and why, real quick, and how do I build a good team? And I think if you start there, everything else is going to play in the place. Like I see a lot of people complain like, oh, I'm not getting likes or retweets or anything like that. And like, I can honestly tell you, I've never cared about that. Like, and if you do, you're going to be kind of disappointed because that stuff doesn't come like that. Like that's not what it's for. Like you should be in here just because you love it. And then you get to create cool things and over time, but it takes a lot of time. It took me 2 years to really get a foot in the door. And I worked in some places, and then obviously fantasy pros after a year, and then football guys after 2 years. And even then, for the last year of football guys, I've been trying to prove myself for a year just at the company itself. Like this is not a thing that it's going to happen fast. It doesn't happen fast. So take your time and just have fun.
When you talk about like someone like Matthew Berry, who, I mean, he was working basically for free for like, I think he said like 7 years before, somebody before Roto World kind of gave him, some crumbs. So yeah, I love what you said, because it's, if you're not having fun, what use is doing this? So yeah, have fun first, and then find your voice, and then see what happens. Also, just reach out to people. I think I know I didn't do that as much as I should have the first year, and but made up for it in the second year. And things are, I don't think either of us is ready to quit day jobs to do this, but definitely further along. So love what you said. All right, closing up shop. We're in California. Give me your best favorite Mexican food, favorite tacos. Talk to me.
So, best place to eat Mexican food in California, in my opinion, is San Diego. So
Yes.
I will just throw that out there. I lived in San Diego for 3 years. That's my favorite city in the world. That is the best place to eat Mexican food, man. I love that place for there. But as far as like dishes, like, hey, I like tamales. I'll tell you this. I taught a student whose mom used to make me tamales all the time. And I'm gonna tell you right now, like that was my favorite student in the world. His mom used to cook these tamales. A basketball player, and so like for me, like I was like, oh man, I love that. And I just like a carne asada taco, man. And I'm not no frills. Just give me a little bit of salsa, give me some cheese, just give me some good cooked meat, give me those tacos. But I like it all. But give me San Diego Mexican food over any type of Mexican food all day.
San Diego fish tacos is just there's no there. Second place is the tier break to second. Second place is really far, and I'm in LA, and we have really good Mexican food. But yes, I'm gonna take the San Diego fish tacos over
all
anything,
day.
and all day. And yes, oh god, even though I had dinner a little bit ago, we're recording kind of a little late on this side. Yeah, you're making me want to go hit a taco truck right now. So. Oh man, mi amigo, let's close up shop. You've been awesome. I've had so much fun with you. Now, do you remember the last time we were on? There was one other time we were on a show together. It was you, me, and Nick Script.
Oh yeah, okay, I do remember that. Yes.
I was really green at that time. I think I just launched my YouTube page like a month before or something like that. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. So yeah, Nick's still a friend too. So yeah, so things have grown. Look at us now.
Look at us now. That's awesome.
So, please, another plug for the rookie guide. Anything else you got going on? Please plug away.
Yeah, just follow if you're into dynasty or just prospects, we did a 120 player rookie guide in February. So it has everything. I can't tell you enough. Like It has every quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. We're going to be adding stuff. That's only version 1. It's completely free. Version 2 and 3 are going to be paid, but they're going to be tons of content included. We haven't released what it's going to be yet, but we have some fun plans for that, and it's going to be well worth the money. But yeah, go check it out. It's free. You can download it. You can DM me at any time, @DuBois_22 to look at it. I will send you the link. I'm here to open for any questions that you have, and I'm just here to help you win your leagues. That's the deal.
And that daily email from Joe Bryant is so
Yeah.
good. So good. So you're going to love that. You're going to be ahead of the game on that one. So yes, yeah, follow these guys. Follow the football guys, college football show Familia. That is, yeah, just download it on Spotify, watch it on YouTube, whatever. Watch these guys. They're going to drop the knowledge, especially this time of year. So Kevin, mi amigo, muchas gracias for doing this. This was fantastic. I enjoyed it so much. I learned a lot. That's why I love having guests like you on, to where I could really, you guys did my homework for me during the fall so that I could, kind of, as I told Jeff, after baseball season comes in, that's when I really jump into college football. But
Yeah.
so, gracias otra vez, familia. One more time, shout out to our amigos at fantasypoints.com. Get your subscription. Also, you could find me at Jorge Martin17 on Twitter, FamiliaFFB.com. Going to be pumping content out there all the time. Going to be keep doing all that. We're going to keep this, the YouTube show. Make sure you're liking and subscribing, or if you wanted the audio, Apple, Google, Spotify, get it there. Thank you for Anchor for getting us out there. So one more time, muchas gracias to Kevin and familia. Remember, always, 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 todos somos familia. Salud.